This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
He's at development camp with the Florida Panthers. I would imagine, are they all walking around right now like Charlie Brown after he missed the football again?
You're talking because of what happened in free agency yesterday? No.
Yeah.
No. I think they had braced themselves for what was going to happen yesterday. They went for it at the end of last season, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they kind of knew that it was going to be painful at the start of free agency, and it was painful. It was very painful.
Yeah, dude. And not only that, costly, because obviously you were hoping to keep either Giroux or Sherratt, and you're not able to keep either guy. And so you kind of rented them for a very short time. You lost 2 first-rounders in the process. And then Mason Marchment, that's a guy you've talked about before. Wow, that one hurt, man. That one hurt. I really wanted to see them keep him. Noel Acciari's a nice little player, but I can deal with losing him. But the Marchment one really, really kills me, man. That one.
Yeah, that's the one that hurt. And then seeing what Giroux got, which was 6.5 a year. Yeah, even without salary cap issues, given his age, that's one of those where, more power to you, Claude. Sherratt, I don't think there was ever a thought that they'd re-sign him. And like you said, Marchment, especially for a team that's lacking in grit, playoff type, prototypical players, losing him really, really, really hurt. And the problem is they're dealing with cap issues based on the Keith Yandel contract they gave him many years ago. And they're also carrying a $5.3 million charge for Patrick Hornquist, who's a fourth-line player who barely plays, who's a great complementary piece because of his leadership and the grit that he brings.
But not the money.
But he's still a fourth-line player making $5.3 million.
Yeah, that's definitely. And hey, listen, we got to also say Bob's contract is, weighing on this team. Also, it kills their flexibility too. You know what I'm saying? And this is the kind of league that I wish they had a little bit of a luxury tax, because Vinny Viola would happily pay the luxury tax.
Yeah, no, and that's the problem. You pay a goalie that much, he better be, a big time difference maker. And having said that, Bob was good in the playoffs.
Yes.
He wasn't good enough for his contract, if we're going to be honest about it.
Right. He's not the reason why you got eliminated, by the way, in the second round. Let's also give Bob a little love there. But yeah, he's just gonna. The way he has played, he'll never justify that deal anymore. Unfortunately, it is what it is. It just becomes a bad deal. So, all right, listen, man, you're Canadian, so by law, by nature, you know way more about hockey than the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? So walk us through Lyons, Bitetto, Cousins, White, the Stahl brothers. What do you like out of this? Are they looking for another Duclair type of diamond in the rough type of thing? Walk me through all of this.
Well, the guy they signed are good complementary guys, probably not top 6 forwards. For example, if we're looking at Cousins and Colin White, I don't really see them as, again, top 6 forwards. Colin White's a former first-round player, picked by Ottawa, but he's been more of like a grinder, checker kind of guy, like third line type of guy. Bitetto's so he's fine on defense, but he's like a bottom of the roster type of player. Mark Stahl's had some good years, but he's getting up there in age. Eric Stahl was once a great player, but he didn't
play last year, right? He was out of hockey last year, right?
I know he signed with Montreal, and I don't know. I believe he played some, but he's not the player he once was. They signed him to professional tryout, so he may not even be on the opening day roster. And if he is, expecting a whole lot from him. This is not the idea of Eric Stahl is great, but 2005 Eric Stahl, not 2022 Eric Stahl. So yeah, it's impossible to not look at this team and say that they haven't taken a step back. And unfortunately, and again, this was kind of to be expected. The guys they signed again, were complementary pieces, whereas they lost Giroux, who's kind of a frontline guy. Sherratt, to me, is a good top four defenseman. And we already spoke about Marchment. So, and it's going to be, I mean, they still have some good talent on the top six with Verhaeghe, Barkov, Huberdeau, Bennett, Reinhardt. You need that one right winger to team up with Verhaeghe and Barkov on the top line. I don't know if that guy's on the roster yet. They have some young prospects. Maybe they hope they make the jump. Denisenko, Eponiemi. I don't know if either of them are ready to be top six guys anyway. So, no, it becomes like this notion that the Panthers are going to be able to repeat what they did last year and win the President's Trophy.
I don't care about that.
I don't say no. I correct, but and I'm not sure also how well they've addressed the fundamental problem with this roster is that they're not necessarily built for the playoffs. I mean, if you come back with the same core, you're going to have the same issues again of being able to grind it out in the playoffs.
Right. And so that's what I got to ask you. Did they do that at least? Did they get more grinders? Is that what they found in some of these guys? Is that what they're expecting from some of these guys?
I can't say that they did. I mean, again, they got good complementary role players, grinders, but not necessarily. They're not like big physical guys. Cousin's not a big physical guy. Colin White isn't either. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
How am I supposed to feel like they could go farther next year than they did this past year?
Yes,
that's what it's. I don't care about the points in the President's Cup. Can you get past the second round? Can you get to the conference finals? You know what I mean? What would it take for that to happen? Let's put it that way.
I'm going to hate to put it on one guy and maybe two guys. It's going to take for Barkov and Huberdeau to be dominant players like they are in the regular season and to carry that into the playoffs. And to me, it's going to be a lot easier for Barkov because he's got the body for it and his style is more conducive to that. Huberdeau is a finesse player who does a dipsy doodle and all that, which is 18 times more difficult to do in the playoffs because guys won't let you breathe. They won't give you any room to do that. So, but that's what it's going to take.
Okay. All right. Let's switch gears. Talk a little Dolphins. There isn't a lot of news out there, but what'd you think of the story already about Sean Payton eyeing the Chargers, Cowboys, and Dolphins in 2023?
I don't think that it's breaking any ground that was overly shocking. I mean, he's been linked to the Cowboys for quite a while. He was linked to the Dolphins earlier this offseason. And who wouldn't want to coach the Chargers if they decide to move on from Brandon Staley after just 2 years? When you have, I mean, I didn't know the part about it that the warm weather was that important to him. But again, if the Chargers decide to move on from Brandon Staley, I mean, you got a franchise quarterback in place. You got a lot of good pieces, but this is a team that logically should challenge for the AFC West title in 2022, even though that division is completely ridiculous. So, but again, the other issue is whatever happens, teams still have to deal with the Saints, who are going to want compensation for allowing Peyton to leave and sign with another team.
By the way, he wants personnel decisions, which this is why I get the feeling that, a lot of this stuff that's gone on throughout the last 2 years, it's Flo about Watson, it's the owner about Brady, and it's the owner also about Sean Payton. And yet I don't think it's ever the front office about any of those people. I think they're happy with doing what they're doing and going in that direction that they're going in right now. And any of the detours that we've talked about has been outside of the front office instead of being the front office.
Well, yeah, but as we've discussed before on this show, is Stephen Ross likes the shiny object, and if Sean Payton is on the open market next year, he's the shiny object.
And I reminded everybody that so was Jimmy Johnson, and it didn't work out.
That wasn't Stephen Ross, though.
No. But what I'm saying is the shiny object always doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Bill Parcells was a shiny object. and Nick Saban was a shiny object. And the other thing that you don't know, he wants personnel decisions. Well, guess what? He's never done that either. Who's to say that Sean Payton's going to be good at personnel? He won his championship without him being the personnel guy. He won most of the time in New Orleans without ever being the personnel guy. So who's to say that he's going to be good in personnel? That's the other thing that people have to understand, that just because you acquire Sean Payton, well, Sean Payton may actually be his own worst enemy if he's not a very good general manager.
Yes, that would be yet to be determined. I would also, but he would come into a situation where where Chris Greer is not an alpha, who would have no problem letting Sean Payton call the shots if it came to that.
Well, but that doesn't matter. The bottom line is he'd be one calling the shots, and he'd be the one effing it all up, is my point.
But you're assuming he would be effing it all up. And I would also argue with you that I would say I would call Jimmy Johnson's tenure with the Dolphins massively underrated. I mean, he made the playoffs 3 out of 4 years after inheriting a horrible cap situation, and he left in place for the wrong guy, as it turned out, but he left in place a great foundation in terms of the defense.
Yeah, I will also say he killed his own offense by trading away Irving Fryer and letting guys go, and taking away audibles from the greatest quarterback in the history of the franchise, and drafting Jarris McFailure and Larry Shannon, and we could just go on and on and on and talk about all the F ups on offense. Yeah, he, as good as he was on defense, he was that bad on offense. He was his own worst enemy, thinking he could run the Dallas offense without the Dallas line or the Dallas running back. So as much as you can praise him for what he did on defense, I will counter with how much he was a cancer on offense, because he was a cancer on offense. He debilitated his own quarterback. He made his own quarterback worse by taking away the audibles. So to me, and weapons too at the same time. Irving Fryer, by the way, had back-to-back Pro Bowl years for the Eagles after leaving the Miami Dolphins, and they did not replace him. You know what I'm saying? So we could go back and forth on that. He said they were going to be special. They were never special. So, yeah, he had more success than all the other clowns that followed him after. But overall, for what he came to do, he didn't get it done. He was an embarrassment in the playoffs.
Well, because correct, but because the expectation was it's Jimmy Johnson, they're going to win the Super Bowl. But again,
he said it. We're going to be special.
How many Dolphin fans?
I gotta find that soundbite. I have it.
Okay, Big O. How many Dolphin fans right now would kill to make the playoffs 3 of the next 4 years, considering the drought they've been on? So,
I get that, my brother. A starving child wants food too.
Okay.
I understand that. If you haven't gotten laid for 10 days here in Vegas, you're dying to get laid when you get home. I get that. I totally understand all of that, my brother. But the bottom line is, it's about building a team to win a championship, to be something respectful. When they got to the playoffs, they were a joke. They got thoroughly embarrassed over and over again in the playoffs. Jimmy did. So to me, yeah, you were good enough to just get into the playoffs, but you weren't really impactful in the playoffs. So I wasn't that impressed with it. I'm glad you went, but to compare it to what you've had now, come on, bro.
Well,
it's like Mad Dog used to say. So you're the valedictorian of summer school. You know what I mean? It's like,
Okay, but again, if we're grading on the scale, he did very well. And to me, it wasn't a perfect tenure, but to say it completely sucked, to me, that's not right either. It's somewhere in between. Can we agree on that? It's somewhere in between.
Yeah. No. What passed after him completely sucked. Cam Cameron completely sucked. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm with you there. I'm not going to say he completely sucked, because he built up Jason Taylor and Sam and Pat and Zach, obviously,
and Tim Bones. No. Shula drafted him, correct? But he thrived and developed.
Well, he had to keep him because he's a hell of a player, bro. Come on.
Correct.
If you want Zach to run around, you keep Timbo there, bro. Okay, so he was smart enough on that end. But defense, he did great. I'll never complain about what he did on defense. I'll kill him for what he did on offense. I mean, I will assassinate his ass for what he did on offense and what he did to Marino overall.
But here's the thing though is offense and defense have to work together, and that was his idea. Whereas Shula sacrificed the defense to fully exploit what Marino was doing well. When Johnson took over, Marino was in his 14th NFL season. He wasn't the Marino of 1984 anymore.
Where I disagree with you on that, I think that was all coincidence. I think Shula lost his personnel people. And I don't think Shula had as strong personnel people like he had in the past. That's what I think hurt him. In the 70s and the early 80s, he had some really good personnel people with him. By the time we got to the mid to late 80s and the 90s, his personnel department was just pretty much shot, and it was him, and he was making all kinds of bad decisions. When he had Beathard and some of the other guys, he had a much better front office in those days. Now, he lost his juice. That's what I think happened to him. He made a lot of bad decisions, unfortunately, and a lot of bad luck too. Because you trade for Eric Green, he blew out his freaking knee. I mean, that I can't blame Shula for that. I can blame him for trading Robin Senline for Anthony Carter. I can blame him for that. I can blame him for drafting Eric Kumaro and Jackie Shipp. I can blame him for that. I can blame him for certain things. Now, he had some bad luck, and trading for Eric Green was a disaster. My God. That guy looked like Kyle Lowry. It was terrible.
And big to begin with. No, they signed him as a free agent. But the flip side is he did get Richmond Webb and Keith Sims in the first 2 rounds in 1990. He was able to turn Randall Hill into the 7th pick in the draft. Not even a month into his rookie season. Traded him to Arizona, and Randall Hill never became a great NFL player, and got the 7th overall pick out of him, and then wound up picking Troy Vincent with that pick, who's a really, really good player, even though sadly he did most of his best work with the Eagles. So there were hits and misses.
It also didn't help. He played him on special teams, and he blew out his knee.
Who?
Troy Vincent. Remember? Poor Shula. Because you play some of your best players. I mean, Jimmy played JT and Zach the first 2 years of their careers on special teams. So Shula plays Troy Vincent on special teams. He blows out his knee, and they kill Shula after that. Troy comes back to have a great career. It doesn't matter. But hey, back in those days, blowing out your knee was an enormous thing, dude.
Yep.
And for Troy to come back and have a Hall of Fame caliber career, you can almost argue, it's pretty special on his part as a player. He had his hits and misses.
Correct.
As he hits on Green and Webb. I mean, on Webb and Sims, he misses on Green and
Billy Milner.
And Billy Milner. And
that was his last draft too.
And Earthquake Blake. So yeah, it's I personally think he lost an edge in his personnel department from his early days when he was strong. Who's the other guy? It wasn't Beathard, the other guy that was there longer than him. Who's the other personnel guy that helped him out a lot?
George Young?
Yeah, Young, who then went on to the Giants to, because everybody, like Parcells coached it, but a lot of these Giant fans act like he picked those players when it was really George Young that picked those players, not Parcells, actually. Parcells went to do the groceries after. But really, George Young did the one for those teams that won in 87, 91, I want to say?
They won in the 86 season and the 90 season.
Right, so it's okay, yes, exactly. Exactly it. But that's what I'm saying, that you could want, just for the people that want Sean Payton, be careful what you want, because he also wants to do a job he's never done before, and that's pretty dangerous too. And a lot of guys, actually, I'll go out on a limb and say most guys end up failing when they take on that extra responsibility.
Yeah,
very few succeed handling both responsibilities.
Important point to be made there, okay? Because we get into semantics with this. Do we really believe that Sean Payton never had any say whatsoever in which players the Saints were picking in the final years of his tenure? I mean, not for a second.
Well,
don't believe.
they didn't win a title in their final years, so it doesn't matter.
I understand, but they were always competitive. And last year they would have made the playoffs. It wasn't for the fact that half their team was on the
I can
COVID
tell
list.
you that he may have an opinion, he might have a suggestion, but most of them were done by Jeff Ireland the last couple of years. Most of them are all done by Jeff Ireland and the other guy,
Mickey Loomis.
Loomis.
But again,
those are the guys that are making the picks normally, not Sean Payton.
see, I'll check with my buddies in New Orleans because
You can
again,
check with them.
but it's like again, this is all semantics because Chris.
You know that one draft that they hit like 5 years ago?
Yeah, 2017.
That was all Ireland. Ireland.
And again, I will venture.
Everybody goes
There's
Jeff Ireland in that draft.
Who maybe identified the guys, but there's zero chance in my mind that Sean Payton didn't have a say. Just like Chris Greer has been GM of the Dolphins since 2016. He has not been the final decision maker since 2016.
No. He's been the final decision maker the last 3 years.
Correct. So that's why when you have that title, and even though Sean Payton didn't necessarily have that title, so
yeah, but the bottom line is he's not the personnel guy in New Orleans, and so you can't label him like he had any of those successes. The guys that are constantly giving the praise for it, it's Ireland and Loomis. Those are the guys that are constantly giving.
Correct.
Nobody mentions Payton ever. Everybody mentions on the personnel side. They all go, wow, this, that, because, our ties with Ireland. And it's like, hell, I saw Ireland, like, what was it, 4 years ago now, at the combine. And I talked to him and I congratulated him on that draft. I said, man, you nailed it and all that stuff. And he was happy to take all the credit for it. So, be careful what you ask for. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut it short. I'm going to have to bail, but I will leave with one final thought that if it does come to pass, to me, it would be very surprising and things would have to go horribly wrong for the Dolphins to bail out on Mike McDaniel after just 1 year. So, on that note, have a great weekend, my brother.
You got it, my man. Be good. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. And, of course, catch his work there at Sports Illustrated. AllDolphins.com is the website. AllDolphins.com. Make sure you bookmark that baby. That is Alain Poupart there. Good conversation.